Chenpei, go ahead to start when you're ready. We can barely hear you.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah. It's much better.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. And today I'm going to present a paper published on CCS 2021. The title is Wireless Charging Power Side Channel Attacks. So let's begin with today's outline. At first, I will briefly introduce the background of the wireless charging. And then in this paper, they also show us the power side channel in wireless charging. And they do some extensive experiments to show the website fingerprinting attack, followed by some evaluation. And at the last, I will show the conclusion. So to begin with, nowadays, we are all extensive smartphone users. We spend large amount of time using smartphones. At the same time, the battery level will drop fast, so we need to charge them from time to time. So according to our survey, a user need to charge his or her cell phone from 1.6 to 2.7 times per day. And it is said that in 2023, the wireless charger will begin to replace the wired one. So more chargers will go wireless, and that time compared to that of cables. And actually using wireless charging is quite convenient. And wireless charger is easy to use. You just need to put your smartphone on the pad and it will charge automatically. What's more, the wireless charger is cheap and ubiquitous. You can find many public wireless chargers in some restaurants or in some areas. So once it is compatible with wireless charging standard, you can simply use it. But it can lead to a simple question: can we use a public charger safely? It can be because there exists some wireless charging protocols like Qi standard to make sure that we can charge the smartphone safely without damage the battery. But what about the private information? If a public charger follows the charging standard, is it still possible to steal the user's private information? Unfortunately, the answer is still yes, because the current protocol of wireless charging leaves a power side channel, and to access this power side channel, no sophisticated equipment is needed, and during the wireless charging, there will be no user permission needed. So all these three reasons makes private information really vulnerable during the wireless charging. So how does this attack happen? Let's look at this example. So thinking of loading some different web pages on a charging phone, notice that the wireless charger is the one who bears the power consumption for of the smartphone. So if you have some activities, its power consumption will be reflected on the charger side. So that is to say, the wireless charger can monitor and record the current if you're surfing some websites or playing some music, it can know that. And then how can they use these recorded current traces to identify the user's activity? If you look at this figure, on the left-hand side in the green line, it is what we are doing now. So we are surfing the Zoom. And on the right-hand side, it is the web page of Wikipedia. So we can observe that loading different web pages have different current trace. So the adversary may use the recorded current trace during the charging to train a classifier that can identify the web pages loaded on the target cell phone. So here is just an example. Before digging into it, I'll show the contribution of this paper. First,
Chenpei, I have a question here.
okay.
So, if you are wireless, if you charge the phone wirelessly, usually I think most of the time we are not going to use the phone, right? We're not going to do the browsing or things like that. Usually we just put it there.
Just in case if you're using that, the power charger will bear the power consumption. So I know what's your meaning, but it just in case you use that stuff.
I was just curious. I think I know that for the wired charger, when you plug into the wired charger, you use the phone. I think that's sometimes it's normal, and we can infer some private information. That makes sense. For the wireless charger, I think most of the time it's a little bit different, right? Usually when we use the wireless charger, we didn't use it a lot. And so is there any, I just trying to figure out, so is there any unique feature about wireless charging that they're going to use here?
I think they are trying to present some, in the current protocol, it doesn't require any, because the wireless charging protocol can leak some information, so they just show there's some possibility. Yeah.
So you mean their attack are basically like specific to wireless charging protocol?
Yes, because it
But
doesn't design for them.
Yeah, but do they mention about the that there are already prior work in, for example, wired charger?
Yeah, it mentioned and comparing to they compare the wireless charger to the wired charger, and they announce they leak the same amount of information.
Yeah, they can think the same. So which one is more difficult in terms of the two? But I saw the wireless charger and the wired charger. Are there a significant difference in terms of this side channel attack?
In terms of the attack, I think they're almost the same. And even for the wired charger, they are less. They're noiseless. But for the wireless charger, it can the signal is noisy.
Oh, okay. Oh, so they may mention that the wireless charger, as you mentioned, the signal may be more noisy. So that's why there are some technical challenges. So they want to address that.
Yes, they mentioned the noisy part, but I think their major concern is the protocol is not that safe.
Okay, I see. Okay, thanks.
All right.
I shared. First of all, I want to talk about the scenario of wireless charging, right? But well, for example, I think for the newest iPhone, right? At least as an advertisement show, in Starbucks. So under some table, you can place some wireless charger over there, and you can place your phone on the table, and at the same time, you can, surf the internet and check some website, use Zoom or whatever. I think from scenario wise, probably somehow it makes sense, right? So in restaurant, any places, you can place your phone there at the same time you use your phone.
Yeah,
possibly, yes. But I share the same question with Dr. Guo. If you can use wired and wirelessly, it shows similar phenomena. why they want to target at wirelessly specific?
Yeah, but I think the problem is they just follow the key standard, and yeah, the charger will actually bear the will charge the battery, but if the battery is about to fully charged, or when the charging current is not that large, it can reflect the smartphone activity by the through the wireless charging channel. So it's kind of it's a different side channel attack.
But it's not significantly different from the wired one, right?
Yeah,
it's not that common in United States, but in China it's very common, right? So people use the phone a lot, then there is some rentable recharging batteries, right? So that's a wired one. But if you use that, those kind of rentable rechargeable batteries, they can record your history or side channel information. They can do the same thing, right?
yeah. For in that point of view, they are the same. They both use the power side channel. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, but anyway, I didn't say significant difference. They just monitor the power consumption, then use that as a side channel information, right?
True.
Okay. Move on, please. Thank you.
Okay. So their first contribution, they first claim they are the first to identify the wireless charging leaks enough information for attacks like website fingerprinting. And the second, they compare it with wired side power side channel attack, and they announce that the wireless charging leaks the same amount of information comparing to the wired charging side channel attacks. And they also show the attack successful rate highly depends on the battery level. So what is the battery level? That is the percentage of your current power comparing to fully charged. So that is the percentage on the battery. It can significantly affect the successful rate. So let's talk about the background knowledge of wireless charging first. So you may already know that wireless charging or wireless power transfer is based on the magnetic resonant induction. So this is actually follows the Faraday's law. To look at this this figure on the transmitter side, will generate out and they will alternate the current on the transmitter coil, and a magnetic field will be generated. So by putting a receiver coil near the transmitter, the magnetic field will induce some current. So this current will be rectified and stored on the battery. So during the power transfer, in fact, there also exists a communication link from the receiver to the transmitter, and it's unidirectional. It adopts the backscatter modulation, that is the load modulation, to actively regulate the power needed by the smartphone. So in the popular chip specification, this communication packet is sent from the receiver to the transmitter during the power transmission. So at the transmitter, it will know that the power consumption of the devices. And because the transmitter does not store any charges, these differences in current directly reflect it somehow reflects the user's activity. So that is for the wireless charging. And so we now know that the power is transmitted from the charger to the cell phone, but how much power does a cell phone needed? So there is battery charging cycle. Basically, the battery has 3 charging stage. The constant current charging stage, the constant voltage stage, and the topping charge state. So in the constant current stage, it is to supply the maximum allowable current, and for the when your and after that is the constant voltage. So the current will drop to limit maximum voltage, and at last, when the phone is nearly fully charged, so it will make up for any discharging to keep the battery to 100%. And you can see this red line in this figure. It indicates the state of charge. So it's from 0% to 100%. And as it goes up, the blue line shows the current. We can see when at first they're in the constant current stage, and when it's about at some it reached some percentage, it will go into the constant voltage stage, and when the state of the charge nearly to be 100%, it only make up for the discharging caused by the user activity. So it is obvious that the topping charge stage will leaks the most information. Yeah, just like I said, it directly reflects the activity, but the attack can still happen in the first 2 stages because they have some, the current trace have some patterns for classification. And so now we can move to the threat model. The first problem is, what is the side channel?
Chenpei, I have a small comment. Could you go to previous page?
Yeah.
I think Ray and Dan, you guys also can comment on this. I work with very short time with Dr. Yan Yao on one of paper talk about the fast charging. I think they have different kind of charging cycles described in different way. You know, it's 3-stage charging, fast charging, that kind of charging. It's not necessary to be only constant current charging or constant voltage charging. You know, they can be interleaved or something to make it to be a very fast charging. So for topping charging, I don't know, but for those kind of charging, it's not necessary to be one pattern. That's the thing I will say. So do they survey the existing charging protocol used by the smartphone, or they just show this figure, you know, arbitrarily or something?
I think they are doing the experiments using this 5 watts Qi charger. So Qi is a standard in wireless charging.
Okay, existing standard, right?
Yeah.
Okay, on iPhone 11. So, but how can they? I believe. I mean, is there any kind of selection button you can do the constant current charging and constant voltage charging? Otherwise, how can they do the experiments?
They just, I think if you look at the right line, they just charge the cell phone from 0% to 100%, monitor the current. I don't know if there is a button to change the state. Actually, I think there's no way to do that.
Okay, so the current charging,
sure.
yeah, we are not expert in that area. So the current charging and voltage charging, the constant ones, they happen at the same time, right? As long as you don't use any kind of apps, or you didn't look at any kind of web page, those two things happen simultaneously: constant current charging and constant voltage charging.
Not simultaneously, I guess. It's like the first stage and the second stage, and at last the third stage. So it's follow one by one.
Oh,
Yeah,
hey, Ray and Dan, you guys have better memory than me. So do you guys still remember the fast charging protocol Dr. Yao they use in their paper?
I think for the fast charging protocol, maybe we have several stages, but I forgot the details of each stage.
Yeah, they somehow they use the constant current and constant voltage as well, right?
Yes, yes.
But here in this figure, they don't show the top charging, right? Topping charging.
yeah, they don't show that.
They only show the constant current and constant voltage.
Yeah, actually, their experiment, if you are trying to sell the to emphasize the successful rates, they use in topping charging because it's the most information leakage. Yeah.
Okay, I'm just curious, and because it seems a little bit different from the knowledge we know. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So let's move on. So what is power side channel? What is sino chat attack? Side channel attack? It means the attacker will acquire sensitive information through the unintended secret dependent variations in the physical behaviors. Or in other words, it is the system, not the algorithm, who leaks the information. So in this case, it is a power side channel, and we know that the power side channel leaks information, but usually it can hardly be accessible. However, when are using the wireless charging, it's bridged the side channel to the wireless charger. What makes it worse, the wireless charger only need to record the traces and train a classifier. Uh, this kind of sensors is not expensive. It's usually under $30. So it can easily launch this attack. And their goal is to infer the events or data on the target devices by analyzing the recorded power traces. So that is a very simple threat model. And to validate this idea in this paper, they do some experiments to show this kind of attack. So they just easily fabricate the adversarial charger showing in this figure. They just use the Qi standard charger and link it with a current sensor. So there's even no need to modify the transmitting circuit. If you're looking at the if you look at the right-hand side figure, so you just put additional current sensor there, and if you can record the current trace, you can launch the attack. So for the tested device, they are using the iPhone 11 with the iOS 14 operating system. And for comparison, they also use the Google Pixel 4 running an Android 11 system. Both of these devices are capable or compatible for the Qi standards wireless charging. So how do they collect the current data? First, they need to turn on the Wi-Fi connection for the data transmission, and they want to remove some irrelevant interference. For example, they need to close all the tabs and empty the cache before collecting the data. So if you look at this figure, it is an example. The pink line, blue line, and the brown line indicates different websites, Reddit, Office, and Twitch. So we can observe they are visually different. The reason behind is because the different amount of image loading or the Wi-Fi transmission. So the power consumption of the CPU and Wi-Fi can reflect a different website, and it can be recorded by the wireless charger. And another question is whether the recorded traces is repeatable. So they're doing two separate experiments. Their second experiment is done after 9 months when they are doing the first experiment. So they show these two figures for comparison for each website. And we can see actually the trace pattern very similar with the previous, no. I made a mistake. It's not 9 months later, but it is just that they do it again on the same experiments. So they can see when they collect the data again, it shows the similar current traces. So it's actually reasonable to use some former collected data to train a classifier. So this, if you're using some script to open the website again and again, so it will give you very similar current trace. Okay, so now we can show the attack overview. So in this paper, they also present a website fingerprinting attack. This attack is to use wireless charging and power side channel to infer the website the user is watching. So to launch this attack, the victim's smartphone should be charging using a public key standard wireless charger. However, the attacker is able to monitor and save the output current of the transmitter, the charger. So under this setup, the user begin to load a website. So notice that it's induced a current from the wireless charger. The attacker can collect the current trace and use some pre-trained classifier to identify what kind of website you are browsing. So this process is the so-called website fingerprinting attack. As we mentioned before, the battery level will affect the result. So we can see it from this figure. The author lists 5 different activities under different battery levels. So when this battery is fully charged, the differences between the activity are clear. So this is because the current solely depends on the power consumption caused by the user activity. However, when the battery level is low, their differences actually becomes undistinguishable, especially when it is below the 80%. It also claims that there will be little information leakage because the power consumption from the app does not dominate the current. So that is the current is mostly to charge the battery when the battery is low. So that is their 2 observations. And after talking about the data collection, we can now focus on the classification algorithm. As you can see, they are using a 1D CNN architecture. So it includes the input layer, several 1D convolutional layer, and they also incorporate the LSTM layer followed by the dropout and for the collection layers. This architecture actually is borrowed from the human activity recognition. So the key features here is that they divide the original traces into segments with 97.5 overlapping. So this process can actually increase the time invariant data samples. So with the more data samples for training, there will be less possible for overfitting. And another is the 1D CNN architecture. So why they are using the 1D CNN? Because this architecture can learn some time invariant features. And then why they're using the LSTM layer is the LSTM can learn the chronological events from the 3 slices. So here is an example. It can learn the ordered event because when you load a website, it follows some order, like it first execute the JavaScript, and then it will followed by some Wi-Fi transmission, and at last will load images. So that is some chronological orders that can be learned by the LSTM layer. And at last, they use the dropout layer to prevent overfitting. So here is the classification algorithm, and their evaluation is based on the metric of the rank 1 and rank 2 accuracy. For the rank 1 accuracy, that is the website that with the highest score is correct. And for the rank 2 accuracy, that is the highest and second highest score is correct. So they do a lot of experiment with respect to the device manufacturer, different devices for training and testing, different chargers for training and testing, the aging of training traces, and at last, the battery state of the chart. So let's talk about them one by one. The first experiment, they show the impact of different devices. They're doing the evaluation on the iPhone 11 and the Pixel 4. So from the following tables, the accuracy trained and tested on the iPhone is showing in table 2, and for the Pixel 4 is on the table 3. So you can see for the iPhone, it can achieve at least 82% rank 1 accuracy and 87% rank 2 accuracy. And as for the Pixel, the rank 1 accuracy can achieve 85%, and for the rank 2 accuracy, it can be 91%. We can also compare the impact of the trace length if you look at the table 2. So in general, the longer trace can slightly better than the shorter ones, but you can see for the traces as short as 2.5 seconds, although its rank 1 accuracy and its accuracy is not that good, but it's actually usable. And you can see for 4-second trace comparing to longer slices, their differences is actually not that much because most websites are loaded within 4 seconds. So if the system do not have much memory, you can absolutely choose to use some shorter traces. And at last, the wireless and the wired charging are compared in this table. So for the power side channel attack, the wired charging is noiseless, and for the wireless charging, they can somehow be noisy. So we can compare their differences in the table 2. For the noiseless one, it can always have a better result, but their differences is not that much. So again, it also claims that the wireless charging and the leak the same amount of information comparing to the wired one. But actually, I found something very strange here, because this statement is made in this experiment. But if we look at the figure 3, when it's tested on the Pixel 4, the wireless charging is actually has better inference accuracy than the wired one. It may be because from different manufacturer adopt a different charging strategy, so makes it the wired one less vulnerable to the the website fingerprinting attack, but they do not mention much in their paper. So that is the comparison between the wired and the wireless charging. And then they also test the cross-device attacks, namely they train the data from one devices and test it on another devices. The result for this kind of attack, fortunately, it doesn't work because it only have a 4.2% rank 1 accuracy. So it actually indicates the power profile for loading a same website is different among devices and operating system. But they also do some other experiments to show the training and testing on different chargers. So that is basically you use the wired charging data and test on the wireless charging, or vice versa. You use wireless charging data for training and and wired data for testing. The result shows here is the real result for this kind of experiment is showing that the attack is still usable. You do not need to retrain the classifier. It also means the proposed wireless side channel attack is comparable to the wireless to the wild one. So for the different devices, the attack doesn't work, but for different charger, the attack is it doesn't depend on what specific charger you are using for training and testing. So that is for this kind of experiment. And the details are showing in this slide for the different chargers. The first figure shows a visual example that the wireless and the wired charging traces looks quite similar, and the confusion matrix are given on the right-hand side. Their usability is evaluated based on the rank 1 and rank 2 accuracy. So the rank 2 accuracy is still acceptable. You look at the train on the wireless and test on the wild, it has a 68% successful rate. And for the other one, it has a 75% successful rate. They are much larger than the random guess. So this kind of attack do not require retrain the classifier. And at last, their evaluation tests the aging of the training traces. So this is actually the experiment test the new traces after 9 months when the training traces is collected before. So their result shows the accuracy will significantly lowered because it's after 9 months, the content of the website change a lot. So this is the aging of the training traces. And at last, they show the impact of the battery state of the charge. I just showed the result here because they actually show that figure to elaborate the when the topping charge is leaks the most information. So they just give the result that the information is reviewed when the battery state reaches 95% of wired and 90% that from the wireless. When its battery level is at this stage, the attack can be really successful. So that is for the battery state of the charge. In their discussion section, they also show this kind of attack is not limited to the website fingerprinting. You can use the power side channel for other attacks like the length of the, to infer the length of the password. Because when you tap the screen at the wireless charger side, you will observe a current increase. So when you tap it, you will have an increase. So the attacker may get to know the length of your password. And for your other user activities, such as when your screen is on and off, when you're playing the music, or even which of the song you are playing, it can be detected by the wireless charger. And at last, it can also use to infer the CPU working stage. So that is why the proposed wireless charging side channel should be paid more attention. And The conclusion. This paper presents a new side channel attack that occurs when a chip-compatible device is wireless charging. And the attack can be launched by recording the current traces with low-cost devices. And then last, with no permission from the operating system, this attack can infer the private information, such as the browser activity. So that is all for today. And thanks for listening.
Chenpei, I have several questions. First of all, those websites, they're labeled, right?
Yeah, they are choosing the website from the top 20 popular website by, yeah.
Okay, in that case, I have a following up question. For example, for say designated website, for example, Amazon, right?
Mm-hmm.
The homepage and their branch website, say Amazon, I Google something, I want to buy a earbud or something, right? I Google and then they show the earbuds. Those two websites, the homepage and the branch page, they show the same pattern or show something, some similarity or something?
No, they do not mention that, but I think it's not the case.
Yeah, because I guess it's not the case because they have different figure, different video. Many things are different.
Yeah,
right?
That's true. So I think they just test the homepage for illustration.
Another thing is, you know, when we talk about the battery charging, I know they mentioned they reach 95 or 90%, then you can do something, say that I don't know, they collect the data or something. But actually, during this fast charging stage, we still don't know what's the best pattern for that, right? So, I mean, this work there, it can only be applicable in very limited space under many conditions. So I don't know, probably that's a style of nowadays CCS paper.
Just a few very limited theoretical part and a lot of experiments.
Also, their applications are very limited too.
In my point of view, it's just like Dr. Go said, it's a common power side channel attack, but they are trying to sell it by emphasizing this wireless charging protocol can give it for can bridge this attacker to your power consumption traces profile. So for the attack, it's still that attack, but it can leak information via that channel.
But the thing is, I don't know what's the big deal. For example, I check some sports website every day. If that information leaked out, then what? It does not mean I do sports. I'm a sports fan. Probably I'm not. I don't do any kind of sports, right? So I don't know. It's really hard to build up some strong connections between this paper and potential usability.
Yeah, I agree with Dr. Pan's comments, actually. I mean, so what, right?
Yeah, so what? Come on, you can do any kind of advertisement or recommendation or any kind of attacks. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe I was thinking about maybe they have a so it involves a lot of experiments, and they need to do a lot of demo or things like that. It's more like a practical research. Well, Yeah, anyway, I still remember. I think Dr. Pan, it looks like I remember. I think when we first studied the smart grid, right? We have the what they call the smart grid privacy, right? The smart metering privacy by checking
Yeah,
the smart metering
but
data.
that one, that one still, I can buy their story. Say, okay, from the energy profile, I can tell sometimes you're not at home.
Yeah, yeah.
So some burglar, smuggler, they can break into your house and
Yeah,
steal some expensive things, right? I mean, compared to that, this one, the storyline is even weaker. If you know, I do office every day, I do overleaf every day, I do the sports website every day, then what?
Hey, Dr. Pan, maybe you can think like, what if somebody visits some prohibited websites, like which you're not supposed to, maybe, and if the attacker seeks that information, maybe they can blackmail that. Maybe I will
I
share
think
this information with your
yeah,
wife or something.
for those websites, they cannot label it. For example, some bad website, for example, everybody knows this bad website, right? They cannot label that, right? Even I do that, then what? You can only criticize me from moral point of view, and then what?
And maybe you can blackmail that we will publish this information
yeah.
that you are visiting such website.
I don't know.
I think there's a critical issue here. Okay, so let's say if your goal is trying to identify, what kind of website you are browsing, right? If that's the goal, and then you have an easier way. For example, you check the network traffic. Why do you want to go through this very restricted scenario, checking their wireless charging, this very unique setting? Well, what you can do is that, well, you just say, oh, let's check your network traffic to see.
Yeah, exactly.
There's a, yeah,
you
if
can,
you see the people,
you
there are
can,
website fingerprinting people, using the, I think the encrypted network traffic, they can infer what kind of website you are using, you are browsing. That is more general, and also I think it's more useful actually compared to this one.
yeah, you can track the IP address, and a lot of tools you can use. Say, yeah, if you want to monitor someone, right? So, or say you want to find out some attackers. There are so many approach, either wireless network or internet, right? So you I don't know, you use those much efforts. Just try to derive what kind of website you're checking. And most of the time is the top 20 or top 10 website you're checking. For those websites, it's nothing sensitive, right? For example, Google, Yahoo, what's the big deal if you check those websites? They contain so many informations there, right? So I don't know.
Oh, yeah. If it's that's like the Google, Yahoo, I think there's no private information.
Yeah, I mean, this is more like a REU project instead of I don't know, it's a PhD work. You do a lot of hands-on experiments and measurements, and you apply existing learning tools. Then you don't discover anything exciting. You just do some hands-on exercise. That's it. Even on REU, I mean, if you have very talented high school student, you tell them the trick or the tools, they learn that probably 3 months, they can do the job, right? So I don't know. I really don't quite get the story here.
Yeah, I think basically it's basically like I think perhaps more the takeaway is that using the power traces, you will be able to infer some related to your activity. I mean, maybe instead of focusing on this very specific scenario, you may want to think a little bit bigger. For example, I know that I think many years ago, when cloud computing is very hot, and then people are saying that, well, because my virtual machine and your virtual machine, they are co-located with each other, so maybe I can infer infer your activities based on some side channel attacks, things like that. I mean, maybe some kind of techniques or tools can be reused, but definitely you need to find out a more significant problem. I think that's the problem. The side channel attack is fine. Side channel attack is great. I think there are many interesting papers in this area. But maybe under what problem setting you want to consider the side channel attack? I think that's perhaps more important.
Yeah, I think the last experiments they have done, say, to guess your password, those one probably, yeah, if you can really, deploy that one is more interesting. Because I remember several years ago, people talk about, okay, like you use your cell phone to pick at other people's cell phone to say when you input some password or something. I didn't remember exactly, but something like that, or use acoustic signals to guess your password or your unlock pattern for the phones. That one probably is more exciting, but this one, I don't know, it's lack of very good motivation.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna stop recording then.